Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and to my shop. Today I'm going to talk to you about what is the right engine for your off-road buggy. So over the years I've had several different types of engines. I've had 4-cylinder engines, 6-cylinder engines, and 8-cylinder engines, and I want to share some of my experiences with the right size engine to use for a new buggy build. So the first thing that you have to think about is basically the engine is the most important part of a buggy because it's going to dictate exactly all the other components for the chassis and then for the drivetrain, as well as the axles and what size tires. So, and I personally think that there's no right 100% right answer for this question, but it all depends on the situation. If you are interested mostly in rock crawling at slow speeds, then a 4-cylinder engine is going to do just fine. Even sometimes if you want to give it a hard throttle and throttle through a slippery hill that is kind of loose dirt or mud, sometimes the 4-cylinders are going to work good too because they can be built light. Because if you use a 4-cylinder engine, you can pretty much use much lighter weight components, such as the transmission, transfer case, and the axle can be smaller. And if you run, say, about between 37 to 39 inch tires, a lightweight tire, a well-built, buggy with a 4-cylinder can do a lot of things. And I've seen them. I've had a lot of friends who had Suzuki Samurai buggies, and they did very, very good off-road. And I was very impressed by these little Suzuki Samurai buggies. So they do work really good, even with a 4-cylinder engine. Now, obviously, it seems like everybody that I have wheeled with, nobody's happy with the number of horsepower that they have, and they always want more. I wish I had a little bit more horsepower so I can get up the next hill. I mean, it happens to everybody. And, every time you start changing the balance. So if you find a really good balance, so you build an engine and then everything else that flows after the engine, the transmission, transfer case, and the axles and the tire size, all have been holding up well to everything that you've been doing, and then you start increasing the horsepower on the engine, that's basically you need to upgrade everything else that comes after the engine because you're gonna start having some breakage. So the key here is being satisfied with what you have. So when I had the 4-cylinder engine, I mean, it went where I wanted to go, but basically that was at the beginning of my off-roading career, hobby career, and basically I was happy with it, and I wasn't as experienced as I have been now. That's over 25 years ago, and I was pretty happy with it at the time. And then the further and the further I got into off-roading, the more I was kind of interested, okay, I'm going to try something a little bit more difficult, and I need a little bit more horsepower. So after that 4-cylinder engine, which I had in a Jeep YJ, I got a 6-cylinder Jeep TJ, and then I started modifying it, and the 6-cylinder was fine too, and it worked out good for me. I have a lot of friends also who wheel with 6-cylinder engines, and some of them have even superchargers, and they work really good. And once again, I think there's a happy point in regards to the size of the engine and the size of every component in the buggy. Like for 4-cylinder engines, if you have a buggy that is built with a 4-cylinder engine, you can get away with wheeling a 2,500 to 3,000 pound buggy, which is fairly lightweight. And it will basically climb anywhere any other buggy will go. Anyways, the places that I normally wheel. I mean, we don't do competitions or anything crazy like you see on some of the bouncer channels. But basically, you could have fun all day and ride around in a 4-cylinder. You see those UTVs, they're getting pretty popular, and these are pretty small, and they can go a lot of places too. So it's not really the size of the engine that dictates how good of a buggy it can be. So the 6-cylinder engine is a happy medium between the 4 and the 8. So basically now I'm gonna get into 8-cylinder engines. So for the 8-cylinder engines, I mean, I think it's more of a personal preference. Like I personally enjoy having an old school type engine, and that is the reason why I built a big block Ford engine, because I want it to be different, and I like the old school muscle cars in the 60s era, 60s, 70s, and this is why I decided to build the engine that I have currently in my buggy. So, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right answer for everybody. I mean, I like how a V8 engine sounds, and I like the extra horsepower. Obviously, I mean, who doesn't like it? You know, when you press on the pedal and then they just spin the tires so quickly and fast, you have you have good horsepower, and I think this is enjoyable, especially if you've been wheeling for a long time. You know, you always want to try to make things a little bit kind of more exciting over the years, and basically that is one of the reasons why I went with an 8-cylinder build. So it's a lot of fun, but the problem with eight-cylinder engines is the more horsepower you have, the stronger the components after the engine must be. The transmission must be strong, the transfer case and the axles, and you know it comes to a point where now everything is so strong that unless you're paying a lot of money, it's gonna be heavy. So my current buggy weighs about 5,400 pounds. When I finished building it, I weighed it, and this is how much it was. And you know, it doesn't personally bother me. It works good where I go wheeling, and I enjoy driving it. It's comfortable for me, but you know, it's got some detriments too. Having a heavy buggy will not do very well on very slippery rock faces or steep hill climbs unless you have a lot of horsepower to compensate for the weight. So as you see, you know, like those monster trucks, they're fairly heavy, but they have very, very big engines, and that kind of compensates for the weight. So there's a happy medium to find, and you know, it also depends on how much money you want to spend. So if you're watching my channel, you're most likely not interested in the super high-end off-road buggies that you're willing to pay $100,000 to get. You want to build something that you have in your own shop. So you know, you do whatever you feel comfortable with, and it's not all about having all the best components. It's all about making friends and being outdoors and trying something different. You know, like this is something exciting that is different from your everyday life. You know, and I enjoy it. I don't like to compete personally, because I'm more interested in making friends on the trails and driving through, exploring different places. And you know, everybody's different, and I respect everybody's opinion. So I'm just kind of sharing my knowledge with you. So hopefully that helps somebody starting out new. So there's no right answer. If you want to get yourself a buggy, just whatever engine you can find that is within your budget. And if you are interested in building a 600, 700 horsepower engine, you know, that's all good as well. You know, if this is what you want and you have the money to do it, then that will work perfectly fine. But it does not mean that you need to have a 500, 600 horsepower engine in order to have fun off-road. You can equally have fun with a 150 horsepower engine. So that's what I wanted to say for this episode. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'm gonna try to post at least a video once a week. So if you like these videos, like them and subscribe, and I'll make sure I'll keep you entertained.